Picture yourself standing by a fire 30,000 years ago. Night presses in on every side, and there is not a single letter anywhere in the world, not one written word, because writing itself has not been invented yet. And yet the people around that fire know an astonishing amount. They know where the edible roots grow, how to treat a wound, where their bloodline came from, who married whom 3 generations back, and what happened to the clan that walked north and never returned. None of this lives on paper. It lives inside human skulls. So today, let us talk about how humanity managed to remember, govern, trade, and love without writing a single thing down. Start with something that sounds almost impossible to a modern mind. Without writing, people still carried entire libraries of information, purely by mouth. We call this oral tradition, and it was far more powerful than most people assume. Take Homer's Iliad. Thousands of lines of dense, intricate poetry, passed down for centuries, mouth to ear before anyone ever wrote a word of it. The reciters did not memorize it like a script. They learned it through a rhythmic system, where each line practically forced the next one into place, like steps on a staircase. Getting it wrong was nearly impossible, because the structure of the verse itself acted as a built-in memory check. Now travel to Australia, to the Aboriginal peoples, who built what might be the single most extraordinary memory system in human history, the songlines. These were not simply songs, they were maps. Real, precise routes across hundreds and even thousands of miles of desert, encoded into melody and verse. Sing the right song in the right order, and you could cross a waterless wasteland and find water in exactly the spot you needed it. Get the melody wrong, and you could genuinely lose your way in the desert, which could cost you your life. People carried a navigation system in their heads that rivaled modern GPS, and they had been doing it for thousands of years. So what about numbers? Trade, taxes, livestock, harvests, all of that demands counting. And here too, humanity found something brilliant. In the Andes, long before the Inca had any writing system, there existed something called the quipu, a woven arrangement of colored cords tied with knots. The type of knot, its position, and its color encoded numbers and categories. How many sacks of grain had been harvested, how many soldiers stood in a unit, how many years had passed since some event. Specially trained record keepers, the Kipukamayak, could read these cords as fluently as we scan a spreadsheet today. An entire empire, ruling millions of people, was administered without a single written letter, just an astonishingly precise system of knotted string. A similar idea popped up in medieval Europe, and much later than you'd expect. The English treasury used something called telesticks for centuries, wooden rods notched to represent amounts owed. The stick was split in two, one half went to the creditor, the other to the debtor. Fit the two halves back together, and there was no way to fake a debt, because the pattern of the split was as unique as a fingerprint. And here's the strange part. This system ran alongside actual writing all the way into the 1830s, simply because it was reliable and every ordinary person, literate or not, could understand it at a glance. Now think about laws. How do you pass down an entire legal code if you can't write it down? The answer was ritual and repetition. Among many peoples, laws survived as proverbs, chants, and formal recitations that elders performed at gatherings. In Iceland, long before writing arrived, there was a designated official called the law speaker. Once every 3 years, he was required to recite the entire legal code of the country from memory, standing before the assembly at the Rock of Thingvellir. It took several days straight. If he forgot a section or got it wrong, that was treated as a disaster for the whole society, because no other copy of the law existed anywhere. Imagine that kind of pressure resting on one person, holding an entire nation's legal system inside his own head. What about family history, genealogy, that too relied on memory, but a highly trained kind? In parts of West Africa, there were professional memory keepers called griots. From childhood, they memorized the lineages of noble families, key events, wars, and alliances. Stretching back many generations, a griot could recite a ruler's ancestors all the way back to the founder of the line, who might have lived centuries earlier, and tell you the story of every single one of them. This was a living database, handed down from teacher to student over decades of training. And of course, we can skip the moment humans actually started recording information visually. Well before any alphabet existed, cave painting. In the caves of Lascaux and Altamira, over 15,000 years old, there is more than just beautiful animal imagery. Researchers noticed that dots and lines often appear next to the images of bulls and horses, arranged in repeating patterns. Some scientists believe this could be a primitive lunar calendar, a way of tracking the mating seasons of animals and the exact timing for hunting. If that is true, people were recording time and natural cycles long before they ever recorded words. And what about trade between peoples who didn't even share a language? Anthropologists call this silent trade. One group would bring goods and leave them at the edge of their territory, then withdraw. The other group would come, inspect the goods, and place whatever they were willing to offer in exchange nearby, then withdraw as well. Step by step, without a single spoken word and without a single written letter, deals were struck between peoples who might never even meet face to face. All of this leaves you with a strange thought. Writing didn't create human intelligence. It simply freed the memory from having to hold everything at once. Before writing, the human brain functioned like an astonishingly complex, living archive, complete with a backup system built from retelling stories around the fire, error correction built into rhythm and rhyme, and knowledge distributed among elders, record keepers, and storytellers. Losing one person meant losing a library, and sometimes it meant losing the very map that kept an entire tribe alive. That's exactly why elders were treated with such reverence in societies without writing. An old man or woman who had lived long enough was not simply respected. They were a walking archive of decades of accumulated knowledge. Their death was a genuine loss of information that could never be recovered from anywhere else. So the next time you're annoyed at yourself for forgetting an email password, remember there were once people who carried an entire country's legal code in their heads, mapped thousands of miles of desert through song alone, and recited family lines 15 generations deep without ever getting it wrong.